Chapter 3: Reason and Humanity. Life is basically a challenge to humankind, and survival comes at a cost. The stomach is a living proof of a challenge, as one cannot survive without the cost of feeding. We struggle through life to survive, and the world is basically a battleground given the economic principle of limited resources available to satisfy man's unlimited wants. This is what leads to social, economic, and political exploitation of individuals, societies, nations, and continents, leading to factors like war, slavery, and colonialism. Is it a reasonable fact that resources are limited to satisfy man's unlimited wants? Based on my personal, reasonable, and realistic opinion, the principle of limited resources versus man's unlimited wants in the chain of human survival is the world's biggest and only problem. If this can be solved, then mankind can collectively live in harmony with no due regard to human discrimination when it comes to the basic principles of survival. Based on reason and reality, can it be argued for a fact that the available resources in comparison to the selfish character of to some individual and nations might be the problem creating scarcity in resources for survival of the rest? This is a general, deep, reasonable analysis and assessment for human nature within realistic prevailing circumstances. It is a general assessment not based on continent, color, or origins, but generally to humankind, whether poor, rich, wealthy, living in ancient or modern world, Asian, African, European, or American, from whatever origin, as long as you are a resident of the earth we live on as human beings. The fact stands based on reason that regardless of where you stay among all different societies, there are the rich and poor. Based on reason, can it be a fact that what the world holds might be reasonably sufficient enough for collective survival of all mankind? Based on reason, can it be held reasonably for a fact that if the available resources such as minerals or on the surface like agro and from the sky like climate were reasonably utilized, they could be sufficient for basic survival of all humankind? Based on reason, could it be that the human problem of survival might not lie in limited resources, but in their utilization and rationing, where we realistically have societies that throw away food in excess while others die of starvation within the same earth cycle of survival? This is a personal, realistic opinion based on reason, which may be a fact or not, depending on the realistic knowledge at hand and reasoning capacity of me, the writer, and you, the reader. Based on reason and from the realistic historical facts, it is also true that the problem of imbalance of resource allocation that has always existed since the creation of mankind, and this has been the result of the wars for survival and territorial expansion. However, doesn't this stand as a life puzzle that requires a reasonable formula, and it were solved, then mankind could live in harmony? Based on reason, it is a realistic fact that we have witnessed in developed countries like the United Kingdom, where being British citizen is reason enough to receive all basic human rights and needs ranging from free housing, food, healthcare, education to free funeral services at death. In this case, there is no British citizen is fighting for basic survival needs with another. They are not competing with each other for survival. So if this has successfully worked in certain countries like UK and in Europe, can't it work for all mankind with collective rational utilization of the world's available resources? I find it unreasonable of me to blame the West for the exploitation of without blaming the Africans for failing to apply reason so as to utilize their resources towards their own prosperity. Based on reason, the main question remains, are the available world resources limited or unlimited to satisfy man's wants? If yes, then the available resources are limited for a fact, then we have to struggle for survival as a realistic fact. If no, then the available resources are enough or unlimited, then it remains a human puzzle within a reasonable parameter to analyze, assess, calculate how best to rationally utilize the resources for continuity of humanity and basic collective survival. Reason is the key to all human challenges. Presumption that the resources are limited is the reason why humans go to war and create weapons of massive destruction to destroy one another. Reason stands as the masterpiece solution to all human challenges. If the energy put in fighting war and manufacturing weapons would be directed into solving this problem, maybe the world will be a better place. Whereas some die, others are throwing away excessive food or holding it as food reservoirs. This problem of excess food and lack of it in other areas is equally evident in very developed countries like the United States, a country which is a superpower and holds the highest number of the world's billionaires, equally has the largest numbers of the homeless on its streets. Can't there be a formula to create a balance in regards to human basic survival for all? It might not require us all be at the same level or equally hold the same volumes of riches, but basic human survival should not be compromised, and collective human survival should stand at the top of the humanity. Based on reason and reality, isn't there a possibility of the world becoming one global village where the laws, standards, and means of survival are uniform all mankind? Can't this problem of survival be addressed collectively, since man within parameters of reason has been able to move faster from one place to another, creating a plane to fly, has created computers and created spaceships to move into space dimension? How can we possibly fail to reason out this problem of collective human survival amidst all the innovations that we have come up with to ease life? Could it be by reason that human selfishness, greed, or simple personal desires and emotions without necessarily applying reason that have kept this problem persistent? Based on reason, can't some individuals and nations have a compromise in their wants and create a balance in the even utilization of the available resources? However, on the other hand, still based on reason, there has to be a strong implementation process, mainly in the current underdeveloped nations, with reasonable adjustments in the political, social, and legal common frameworks towards reasonable survival. It's reasonably evident that in the developed countries, almost every competent adult of full age with competent understanding and of sound mind holds a certain level of responsibility, Job, and wakes up every day to go to work as a way of life. However, it is equally a non-doubted fact that close to 60% of the average adult in poor societies, especially in African, put in almost zero effort towards their own survivals, which makes them a liability to their common survival and societies where they stay. For collective human survival, there has to be an equal collective effort based on reason and reality. One's reasoning capacity and character are the two major fundamental elements that shape a person on their way forward, and all the rest are secondary. A human mind is the main gift God gave humankind. Reason and reality must stand as an independent subject that should be taught in all schools at all levels. I can proudly offer services in creation of its syllabuses. Shouldn't it be better to have them integrated into all the subjects taught at school? Note, what I have written is a personal opinion from a reasonable and realistic point of view, which may be a fact or not depending on the reasoning capacity of the reader.